Hey there, hope you're doing well. In this video, let's talk about user experience and what are some ways to improve user experience when you're building applications, and what are some things you perhaps don't want to do. And I'll take an example. So I've been, the last few days I've had to do some banking transactions with, like, say, banks in India, and I noticed something that's very different from my general experience in using interfaces like banking interfaces, like web or mobile interfaces with US banks, right? The one distinct difference was any action that you perform, any number of actions and any action that you perform requires an OTP code, the one-time password that gets sent out. I mean, I've seen that, even Bank of America and stuff, but it's generally for the first time. When you set up a new payee, like for bill pay or something, you generally have to, they would send you a one-time password, you enter it and you're good to go. And then when you make these transfers to those payees on a monthly or recurring basis, you don't have to, I've not seen the need, I've not had the experience where they've asked me to verify the OTP code. That's one thing. And two is, even in other banks where I've had the experience where they send you the OTP code, it's generally once per session, right? You sign in with your credentials, and then maybe you're setting up something, a transfer, a wire transfer, or one of those things, and they ask you to verify, validate that's you for security purposes, right? That's fair enough. It's one more time. But what I've noticed with the banks in India, at least the ones I've used recently, is every action, right? You set up like a transfer to somebody. The first time you need to enter the OTP code. The second time you need to do it. For the third pay you need to do it. And when you actually do make the transfer, you have to do it. It's not just between days and across user sessions. Within the scope of a user session, you have to keep doing this. And what makes it actually worse is there are occasions where you have to enter the numbers from the back of your debit card. They have these columns, like 2 rows. It's a grid, 2 rows and like 10 columns each or something. And then it starts with A and A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, or whatever. They'll pick 3 of those, cells at random. And you need to plug in the numbers, and then you also have to enter the OTP code, all within like a 20-second window, right? So it's not a lot of time, right? You got to, you have the card. Let's say you have the card or an image of the back of the card. You go find those numbers because it will be A, F, and R or something like that, right? So you spot them, and they're pretty tiny. You find those numbers, and then you get the OTP code. It's 6, sometimes 8 digits, I think. You need to enter a combination of those 3 numbers and then the OTP code, all within the 20 seconds, or else you have to start all over again, right? It's actually very challenging, right? And it's very frustrating. So it's super secure, but I'm pretty sure. But there is the fine line, right, between usability, security, and actual, and not wanting to even use the product, right? Let's play the devil's advocate. Let's say you have the first level of security, which is a password, and let's say you go to whatever, right? Either you're doing a banking transaction or you're logging into one of your accounts. Let's say we ask for a password, and then the next time, before you log in, let's say we ask you for a second password, a third one, a fourth one, a fifth one. We could ask for like 10 passwords, right? Makes it that much more secure. And let's say we enforce that each password be like 15 characters long, or it may have to be like a sentence with 4 words long. It has to have a special character, has to have numbers, has to not be the ones you've used in the recent past. You can have all these lovely rules and ask for 5 different passwords before you use the product. But you know what? Nobody's going to use it unless they desperately have to use it. So it's painful. So I think there is a fine line between securing something, at least in my opinion, and making it usable, right? I just took security as an example, but there's plenty of other things I noticed when I was using the web app for one or more of these banks. That it was absolutely unfriendly in terms of the user experience. So I was thinking, like, how did they come up with these designs, right? What was the process? How did it go from requirements to product management, to design, to architecture, to development, to testing, to deployment, to production? Did nobody find this as an issue? Find some or all of these, many of these as issues? Or is it possible that you kind of draw your own boundaries and say, you know what, if requirements gives me something, I'll take it as a product manager and do X, Y, and Z. I'll create the wireframes and mockups, give it to the dev team. The dev team goes from there, doesn't ask any questions, and just does it and executes it to the T. Is that the way you want to function as a team? Probably not, right? You want to encourage an environment where everybody has an opportunity to provide some feedback. I'm not saying make it noisy so everyone's always providing feedback and not doing anything to make their lives more productive, and then it doesn't help you as a company or as a team. Obviously that's two ends of the spectrum, but I think there has to be a fair balance, right? Everyone needs to wear this thinking hat, whether you're a product manager, a requirements person, a developer, an architect, a design engineer, a UX person, UI person, a tester, an automated tester, a manual tester, a DevOps person, a security architect, whatever your role is. I think you have to keep focused on what you're doing. Sure, maybe 80% of the time, but there's this 10% of the time where they say you should nurture your interests, and the company should provide an environment for you to do that. But I think that's one thing. But I think you should allocate some amount of time, your personal time, your company time, however it works for you, right? So you know that you are able to provide feedback, and it helps in one of many means. You become less of an introvert. Not that it's bad, but you provide an avenue for people with different personalities to provide their feedback without having to worry about how they might be perceived. Because you need to be healthy in your mind, in your relationships, and in your conversations with your team members. As you grow older, you'll learn what are some ways that work and what are some other ways that don't work, right? That's a natural progression for all of us. But I think it's important to be able to share this feedback, because I'm pretty certain if there was feedback along the way, you wouldn't be in a situation where you have like 10 different OTP codes before you can get anything done. Or you don't have these flashing notifications, right? It's like in your eye, it's like a big fat zero. It just says there are 0 notifications, but it keeps flashing. I mean, like, why? I can think of reason why anything should be flashing on a page, unless it's calling out for attention. Even if it does that, it should probably just do it once, maybe twice. Anything more, you're actually pushing it. Then other issues too with the product, right? There's plenty of stuff happening on the page, and everything is available to you at all times. So it's super clumsy and it's noisy. There are, like, if I had to re-architect, redesign it, I would just rebuild it. Literally, there was hardly anything that I saw in the user interface or the user experience that I was like inspired by, that I want to be like, hey, that's actually pretty cool. I don't think so, right? So I think that's the feedback. But outside of that, when you build something, ask yourself as an end, where the role of in the hand of the developer, of the end user, whatever market that you're catering to, right? And see if it's going to help them understand. Now, you can please everyone, not all the people, definitely not all the time, but you want to put yourself in their shoes, in a variety of different kinds of shoes, and ask these questions, saying, you know what, can I be doing this better? How many clicks does it take to perform this action? And for me to get X, Y, and Z done, but between the time I've logged in, that the session has been active, and the time I end up logging out if I have to sign out, right? How much time am I spending, and should I have had to spend that much time in getting whatever it is that I got done? I mean, it's one thing to want to keep a user in your system so you can push ads on them and do a ton of other things from a monetization standpoint, but you want to make sure that they can do what they want done as quickly as possible, right? I want to take some examples to elaborate on these items, but that's something we take extremely seriously here at Snowpal, right? We want to make sure that you get the best experience, doesn't matter what the feature is. Even if there's a corner case, even if we don't have the time and effort and the money to address it right now, we make it a point that it gets done at some point. And it's not just adding to-dos all over the place in the files. You can do that, but it never ever will get done. You want to do, sometimes it's just an extra hour or two, or a half a day or a day to get something done, that if you defer and push to later, it'll actually take like a whole lot more time to get done, right? So I realize I talked about a bunch of different things, but hopefully you get the message, which is, before you push something out to production, doesn't matter what you're building, put yourself in the shoes of the end user, if it's a web or a mobile app, or if you're building something that's B2B, let's say satisfying systems, play the role of that machine, meaning play the role of the machine indirectly, set those scripts, set up a process that mimics what's exactly going to happen outside of the test that you write, to feel the pain of that experience, so you've alleviated as much pain as possible, and you just put the best foot forward in giving your end users the best possible experience in the time that you have available, which is a key point. And before I end the video, don't forget to sign up on snowpal.com. Be productive, be organized. Thank you.